When you look up the term Black Lagoon, you'll find that it's associated with a language that is synonymous with gloom, hopelessness, and the absence of light. What I observed from experiencing Black Lagoon is the inhabitants of Roanapur are consumed within the inky black void that is the Black Lagoon. It's often noted that the residents of Roanapur have a singular purpose, and that is to make as much money as possible, at the expense of others or themselves. Because for most, that is how they survive in what can be considered a septic power struggle among thieves, mafias, and bounty hunters. For power and money is their god. However, Roanapur in itself may be a metaphor for the inhabitants that dwell within the city. There are two things that are mentioned by Rock, the series protagonist: that the road entrance is a bridge that has a noose that is a warning sign for the weary and an invitation for the reckless. Either way, it is the final stop on their way to hell, as he mentions, as it swallows all those that enter the dark criminal underground. However, there is an additional entrance to the city: the Buddha statue cove for the sea entrance of Roanapur. For Buddhism is known as a peaceful philosophy, why would the statue mean anything more than just a landmark for the city of Roanapur, considering that most of the dissidents of Roanapur would deeply reject such an existence and philosophy? Looking at the way the statue is positioned near the port, you'll notice that it is a standing statue in what can be seen as the overcoming fear and protection statue in Buddhist culture. As the city is a place that only festers fear, why would this be significant to a lot of the people the viewers meet in Roanapur, such as those in the Lagoon Company, Hotel Moscow, and others? Within brief flashbacks with many of our characters, and most recently Rock, we can see that they have an overwhelming sense of fear, and that they inadvertently are running from a former life that has left them powerless or purposeless. So in one way or another, they are led to the Black Lagoon, whether they are disenfranchised, dissatisfied, disillusioned, or deprived. So to escape an old life, they come to one of the worst places that they possibly can go. Well, if you've ever been in a point of your life where you just throw things at a wall and see what sticks, you'll know this all too well. Essentially, what do you have to gain and what do you have to lose? If your former life doesn't care that you're missing, nothing is left but for you to overcome fear and carve your own path. If you have nothing to fall back on, and you've been abandoned by your family, colleagues, and government, the risk of going into the void and coming out on top is ultimately 50-50. Either it is or it isn't. But should a person risk the fear of returning to a state of purposeless and powerless in fear of displeasing society? When we look at characters like Rock and Revi from the Lagoon Company, and Balalaika, the Capitan of Hotel Moscow, specifically, we see that these are some of those that are abandoned by society and left to rot. Rock being left for dead by corporate greed, Revi being left to the streets by her father, and Balalaika, a military captain from the now fallen Soviet Union. Now, these aren't the only characters that exist within this concept in Black Lagoon, but these are the ones that are the most fleshed out within the series' short runtime. Considering the fear of being sold out, abused, and purposeless, being told what to do and appealing to guidelines of society, is it better to figure out who you are, what you want to do, and where you even belong, even if it's wrongdoing? There are extremes to the spectrum. A person can be like Rock, Tired of monotony, becoming a puppet to an unforeseen leader in which you believe you've lost control somewhere along the way, but in reality, you never were in control, and now you resent the former life that is slowly becoming foreign to you. Or a person could be on the other end of the spectrum, like Balalaika, in which you were the person you believed to be all along. You had all the necessary tools from the beginning, but now you are using them for reasons that ultimately benefit you and your cause instead of others. You just needed a non-negotiable reason to start thinking for yourself and take command of a physical unit of others and the mental unit that is oneself, whether that is better or for worse. Or maybe you sit somewhere in the middle like Revi. Your purpose for the moment is just material and you live by your own rules and fear the person you used to be. However, you are also afraid of seeing self-progression and the fear of being vulnerable. Because you have seen what being vulnerable is, and being vulnerable leaves you powerless. So you may not know it yet, but you have substituted one fear for another fear, and have mistaken purpose with purgatory. Whether a person finds their way out of that limbo, either between progression and conquering those demons, or regressing and being consumed by them. We all go through life quickly as it passes by. However, we often forget that comfort can be a sign of purposeless, whether we believe that said comfort is a luxury or not. However, fear is the driving force that makes us swim, sink, or float along the waves that we call life. Everyone has a Roanapur. It might not be as crime infested as the one in Black Lagoon, but you won't know unless you drop anchor, will you?